Are you looking to spruce up your front porch for the spring and summer seasons? Well, I've got some really great budget-friendly home decor DIYs for you. We're gonna make some wreaths, some doormats, a few different styles, a few different themes. I hope that you enjoy this collection. Let's get started. This first DIY is for a front porch sign, and I filmed this many years ago for a previous channel that I had, and it was done a little bit more vlog-like. So I am going to kind of scrunch it down into a shorter clip, and I'm redoing the voiceover. So I have this wood board that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, and then these letters that are also from Hobby Lobby. I believe they're like a particle board type piece. I would say find a wood board, whether you just get one from Hobby Lobby or like Lowe's or Home Depot, and then find letters that fit the board. So there's different varieties made of different materials, different sizes from Hobby Lobby. Pick out what you need. I'm going to do home in this DIY, and I'm going to use something else for the O. So right now I'm starting by just painting the letters. Looks like I was using an acrylic paint. That probably took me a couple coats, I'm assuming, but paint them however you want to do that. And I'm going to just paint all of the sides and then the front and however many coats you need in whatever colors you want to paint them in. And then out in the garage, again, video work, not super great, but we're keeping it short, so I think you'll be fine. I am painting it. I use Agreeable Gray, which was just some house paint that we already had on hand, and I'm painting that. I only did the one side at this point. It looks like I'm wiping it back too. I didn't have a tripod or anything when I was filming this, so paint the board, paint the letters. This came from Hobby Lobby for me. I think I did the whole thing for like under $10, and this was a few years ago, so it might be a little bit more than that. But I still have this sign to this day that I use, and so to me, it was very much worth it. Now I am going over the edges with some type of dark paint. I don't know what I have because I didn't show it, but just with a paper towel to kind of highlight the edges. I made it in a rough way. It's just kind of rubbed on there, nothing in particular, no particular like rhyme or reason, just to kind of outline it and help it stand out a little bit more. Now, I am gluing the letters on. I used E6000, but the spray wasn't working, so I painted it on. I'm going to show you in a second a better way to do that. For my O, I had trouble putting these eye hooks in, as you can see the extra holes. I wanted to use a wreath, and I wanted this O on my home sign to be interchangeable. So I used these, I said eye hooks. These I believe are called like cup hooks or C hooks. And then I have this little wreath, don't remember where I got it, and I attached some safety pins on the back to hook onto these hooks. So I'm going to show you this, and this just made it interchangeable. I turned the bottom hook, I attached from the top, then turned the bottom hook to the side to slide the safety pin over top, and then turn the hook down to keep it secure, and that kind of kept it still during any wind. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. This very next DIY is going to be the other side of this, and I'm going to show you how to do this a little bit differently. So a couple years later, I decided to do the other side of my home sign. So this is going to give you another idea of a way that you could do one of these tall leaning signs. I believe I painted again with the Agreeable Gray just because it's what I had on hand, and I found more of those MDF letters from Hobby Lobby, and this time I'm going to paint them in a brighter color. I'm using acrylic paint, so it did take a couple coats to help it get to that really bright color, but it just goes to show, just use whatever you've got on hand. These next couple DIYs are kind of like in a little series. They're all designed to go together on my front porch, and I wanted to go for a more bright, vibrant color, and so, color palette. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words, but I'm not gonna fix it. I'm just gonna leave that in there. And so we're gonna paint all of our letters. I'm doing hello, and we're going to paint all of those. And then I did take a little brush and some white paint and just do like little dashes along the edges to outline them to kind of give like a stitching look. I just thought it was a nice detail. You know, do what you want there. So there's so many varieties that you can do with these porch leaning signs. This one is super bright and colorful. The other one is more neutral, and I can kind of interchange it for different seasons. By the way, see that thumbs up? You should give me a thumbs up if you enjoy budget-friendly DIYs, and subscribe. you should subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. And that would be great. Thanks. So here we have all of our letters painted and done. Now, this is not something I did on the first side, but I do recommend sealing it. Now, my porch sign is under cover, and it's like in a covered area and doesn't get a whole lot of weathering on it, but I do think that's a good idea. If yours is going to get a little bit more wear and tear, then I would say use a outdoor sealer for yours, but I just did like a dishwasher Mod Podge I had on hand, figuring that was semi like water repellent. And then this time I decided to use my Gorilla wood glue to attach the letters. I think anything that's a strong adhesive would work well. I wouldn't recommend hot glue because the heat from the sun could cause that to soften and things to come loose. Moving on, I've had fun making quite a few doormats out over the years, and this one is a really inexpensive one. I'm just using a Dollar Tree mat. They're a little bit smaller than a lot of other doormats, but I often will layer them on top of one of those more like fabric-y mats, if you know what I mean. I have a couple of them in different colors, and I just use them as my layering piece. And if these don't last long or I get bored with them, it's not a big deal. I didn't spend much money on them. Now, when I say they may not last long, it's not because of the paint. This paint lasts surprisingly well. I think I'm just using acrylic paint. I'm not sure. I do not seal my mats. I have not had any problem with people's feet rubbing on them and taking the paint off, or whether taking the paint off. If you want to seal them, you can look into that. I don't even know what sealer you would use, but I'm sure there's something out there. But my experience has been that I didn't seal them and they were fine. So I'm just taking one of those Dollar Tree mats, and I came up with a phrase. I don't remember yet what this one was because I've done a few over the years, but we'll see at the end. And I used some stencils from Walmart, I believe, and stenciled on some words. And then we're going to go in with those bright colors that I used on the hello leaning sign to coordinate this all together. And I'm stenciling on some flowers in different places with this stencil that is also from the Dollar Tree, and just giving some pops of color. And then I'm using another stencil that I have. I believe these stencils are from Dollar Tree. They're paper ones. They can be reused, but you just have to be careful because they are more likely to tear, whereas the larger ones were a plastic adhesive stencil. But I've managed to use them multiple times. So I had larger letters and smaller letters. So we're going to go ahead and stencil on that. And these mats hold up surprisingly well. I'm telling you, they hold up surprisingly well. I'm going to show you at the end, once I have all of the DIYs in this little series. We're going to move on to the next one now, which is a table that I got at this point probably 15 years ago. I got it at a rummage sale for like $3. At one point, it was painted black and was used in my house. Now it was painted white, and I used it outside. My front porch at this time got a lot of wear and tear as far as sun goes. And so I was used to things not lasting very long. And so I didn't like to spend a lot of money on it. So I was like, I'm just going to keep repurposing these things over and over again, freshening them up, but it's okay if they don't last. So I decided I was going to go for something unique with this table. And I pulled out those acrylic paints once again, and I'm going to paint this a whole array of colors. This is not normally my style. I'm a little bit more neutral, a little bit more farmhouse, but I thought, you know what, for the front porch for spring, let's have some fun and do something crazy. This table was quite worn out. It had seen better days. Why not? Now, the acrylic paint takes a while. It takes a couple of coats because it's acrylic paint. It does not have the same vibrancy with just one coat. And so this is not a tutorial on all of the best perfect things to do. It's like, hey, what do I have that can work? And it works and it lasts. So that's what we're doing. We're going to paint this all different colors to coordinate back to our other pieces. Once I had given it a few coats and got the, vibrancy that I was looking for, I decided to go in with my Mod Podge, the dishwasher Mod Podge, to seal it in, help protect it a little bit from the elements. This is not designed necessarily for that, but it did hold up pretty good. This video is from, at least a couple of years ago. I don't remember exactly. So I'm going to cover it with some Mod Podge. Once again, using what I have on hand. If you're doing this to sell or you're really needing to make sure it's going to last longer, then maybe use something else. But this was a fun pop of color on my porch, and honestly, it lasted pretty good. I was pretty impressed with it. Now here it is, loosely styled. I didn't have a lot to put out there at this time, but I thought it was cute. It looked fun from the street. It was just bright and cheery for summer and spring. This is how the table came out. So fun, so different for me, but it's fun to do, you know, some different things. And it matches really well with our doormat. And yes, it says cute shoes, now take them off. I saw that somewhere and I thought it was really cute. And you can see how it looks layered on top of this larger mat. And I just thought it was bright, again, bright, colorful, and went well with the hello sign. So to get started, I wanted to work on a wreath for my front door. So I picked up these, they're called seed starting Jiffy pots, and some florals from the Dollar Tree. Because this was an outdoor inspired DIY video, I decided I would stay outside while I was editing and do my voiceover. So you might hear the birds in the background. We're just going with it. So these little pots, the first one you saw, Tor, I have seen these at the Dollar Tree, but the best of value that I got was at Walmart. I did have some extra ones. Maybe I'll actually use them for plants, but I'll probably use them in some other DIYs. But nonetheless, I picked out how many I wanted for my wreath, and I'm just using a wooden skewer to poke a hole in this. Now we're going to be adding these to wow, the birds are really going crazy. We're going to be adding these to a grapevine wreath that I already have that I reuse each season. My front porch gets a lot of sun. Things get worn, they get faded, they get tons of sun, and they sometimes get water on them. So I like to just do things as budget friendly as possible. But I also, because it's a lot of sun, I have to make sure that things will, you know, stay. So I didn't want to use just hot glue here. So I've got some floral foam. I showed you, I picked up this big pack of it on clearance at Hobby Lobby. And the first one I did all like nice, measuring it and cutting it out. And then I just ended up doing the others a little bit wonky, but I just cut pieces, crammed it in there, got it nice and firm. I did not put any hot glue here. We will use some hot glue though. So the grapevine wreath that I have, I picked up from Hobby Lobby and I've reused it several times, but I don't bring it in my house because I one time had a lizard in it. And I just don't want to risk bringing whatever might be lurking inside of it into my house. So we're going to assemble all of this first, and then we'll go outside. So I picked up these florals from Dollar Tree. I thought this was funny that it was called baby's breath. I'm like, those just look like red flowers. Maybe there's another kind of baby's breath I'm not familiar with. I picked up these colors because there was a doormat that I picked up, and the colors from that are the inspiration for all of these videos. I'll show that to you here. And these were some pieces that I picked up that went pretty well. So we're just going to put a bunch of hot glue and push these down into the floral foam. Also, I think you saw it, but I was talking about something else at the time. I threaded some jute twine through that hole to attach these to the grapevine wreath. You could also use floral wire, but I just thought this was less likely to scratch my door. And then I'm just covering up the floral foam with some moss that I had, and we're just gonna make these cute little pots. Here's the grapevine wreath, and there's some white berries on there that I had from other years, from other seasons, and I've just left that on. All right, so here I am just seeing how to do this. This was a little bit awkward to do and film. My husband was helping me, and then at some point I was like, all right, put down the camera. I need you to hold the wreath up for me. But I'm just doing my best to put them in place. I didn't want them perfect. They weren't all going to be upright. Obviously, I wasn't going to have them sideways because I didn't want any loose moss falling out. But I'm just doing the best I can, and I'm just tying them on good and tight. And then in the future, I can take off that twine and put something else on the grapevine wreath. So we're going to put, decided on 5. I just felt like that was a good number for these, and I'm going to put them all around, and then we're going to hang that up on my door. But I feel like this adds a nice, fun, bright color. I've seen these on Pinterest. A lot of times people use the terracotta pots. I wanted something more lightweight, so I thought that these pots were a good fit. I'll show it to you on my door in the end, but it was really hard to get a good shot of this. But this is how the wreath came out, and I'll show you again later. For this next one, I have this watering can that has been on my porch, used many seasons for many years. I picked it up at Hobby Lobby at some point. I'm sure I did not pay what was on that price tag. I'm confident in that. But I decided to change it up. So I'm outside
with some Rust-Oleum paint. I probably should use flat, but I used gloss. I was just using what I had on hand, but I think I did have flat on hand as well. Anyways, gonna do my best to give this an even coat of spray paint. I did give it 2 coats altogether. The wind was blowing, and here a bug landed on there, so that was cool. I rescued him, got him off, and painted my watering can. Then I went inside and taped off a couple of the areas because I thought it'd be fun to add, again, more color, bringing in the colors from the doormat that I was going to be using. And these paints, these first 2 are just from HTV Ron. They have some really, really pigmented paints. Now, I don't know why the pink did not go on, you'll see, super great, but eventually I ended up doing like 3 or 4 coats and it worked fine. I think it might have been because I was painting on top of spray paint or because I was painting on top of glossy spray paint. I'm not sure, but I stuck with it and made it work in the end. But you could spray paint the whole thing. You could chalk paint it. This is what I chose to do because I wanted to use the colors and paints that I had on hand. And so I'm going to paint just the top of the spout, the back handle, and then the top handle I decided to do in orange and just gave that a couple of coats, letting it dry really well in between. Here I am doing another coat. And then I did end up taking like a toothpick or a wooden skewer and like poking the holes on the top of that to just open them up. Not that it's going to be being used. I don't even know if this is a functional watering can, to be perfectly honest, but just to make it look better. Once that was dry, I wanted to put some stenciling on the front. So this is a floral stencil from Dollar Tree. I'm also using a Dollar Tree stencil brush. They work great to me. This took a couple of coats because it just doesn't go on. This paint is super pigmented, but what I was painting on, it took a lot more coats. And I'm just using my heat gun, but at a low temp. I did not want to warm up the paint and make it tacky. I didn't want to heat up the metal. So very carefully and cautiously. And I mixed up another color. There's like an orangey red, just again to match the doormat that will be on my front porch as well. And this came out really good. Just make sure you don't overload your paintbrush so you don't have any bleed through. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And then my friends convinced me to go back in and do some leaves. So once it was dry, I taped off the flowers, repositioned it in place, and went and did the leaves that were on the stencil. I had originally covered them up. You can see I keep checking the temperature on the heat gun, making sure it's not hot because the paint, especially the spray paint, it'll just get tacky. Thank you, friends, for convincing me to do the leaves. I do like the little pop of green here on the watering can. Now, a spray sealer would have been easier, but once again, I'm using what I had on hand. And I may actually have some in my garage somewhere, but I use Mod Podge. This is a dishwasher safe Mod Podge, figuring this might help protect it a little bit better against the elements. We'll see. I did 2 coats of that. And then for an added embellishment, also encouraged by my friends, I wanted to make just a little itty bitty beaded garland. So I was trying to figure out how big I wanted to do it. I just wanted to figure it'd be easiest to just drape it there over the handle. This little wood butterfly piece came from, I think from Hobby Lobby, I think it came from Dollar Tree, but Hobby Lobby has similar pieces for different seasons and holidays. And I just chose that one. I thought that would be a nice springy summer thing. These are like spring/summer DIYs like for your porch. I will probably leave this up the entire summer. And then I just fed the string back up through some of the beads. I'm burning it off with my lighter because there was a chunky part of twine there. And then I had a tassel from my stash. I think it actually might have come off of a project from the Dollar Tree. I'm just reconfiguring it, making the loop a little bit smaller, and that's going to go on the other end here. So I'm just kind of showing you my process to make sure it fit over the handle. And then I once again just tied that on and fed the other end up through a bead. That just kind of helps keep it secure. And then I did trim down the tassel because it was way too big for this size of a beaded garland. But I thought this added a nice little natural detail. I'll show you my front porch in the end, but I thought this came out, and I love the bright, fun colors for summer. I usually do a lot of neutrals, but I wanted to switch it up. All right, we're going to go in with some more beads. So once again, I'm going to use the colors that you saw previously to match my doormat, and I am just going to give these a couple of coats of paint, and I'm using a wooden skewer. You can do however you want. I was going to do some of the other methods, but then didn't have what I needed. So just using a wooden skewer, and I gave this 2 or 3 coats. Now, what this is, making the letter O, I have a home sign leaner sign for my front porch. I'll try to remember to link the video where I first made it. It was from my other channel before I started like a exclusively DIY channel. But so it's a different style than my DIY videos are now, but if you want to see how I made that. But I've purposely made it so that the O on home could be interchangeable. So I wanted to make a new O for my porch that matched everything else I had going on. So I had previously measured the size that I wanted and how many beads I was going to need. I actually still ended up miscounting them, but the easiest way to do this, I'm painting all of my beads. My goodness. Okay, if you are enjoying this video, if you enjoy budget-friendly DIYs, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Make sure that your notification bell is on. That way, YouTube will let you know when I post a new video. And if you're liking this video, please give it a thumbs up. That helps me out so much. To have my beads dry, I taped them on top of the wooden skewers on top of paint bottles. This isn't like the most stable thing, but as long as I wasn't near it to bump it, I was just separating them here so they didn't dry together. This actually worked really great for them to dry in between. All right, so we've got all of our beads. Once again, decided it would be good to put on some Mod Podge because this is going to be out in the elements. So I did that. And then I have this thicker gauge wire. This is from Dollar Tree. So are these beads. And I just came up with a pattern. We're just going to do natural colored, and then alternated the colors. You can see what I'm doing here. So like I said, previously figured out I wanted to do 2 rings, 2 rings worth. So one is going to be smaller than the other. I'm counting because I had previously measured, but I once again end up changing that once I get it all together. But it's all right. We go with the flow. We're going to make ourselves a little O. I realized the pattern was off here, so that's why I took some out. Wanted to make it look, right. So we're going to cut that down. I just want to show you how I did this. Needle nose pliers would have worked better. That is on my list. I'm going to get me some, but I used my wire cutters carefully to bend this. I did end up getting pliers out, but needle nose would have been easier. But here, I'm making a little loop. I covered that when I clipped it so that piece didn't go flying in my face. Made a little loop, made sure the bead could go over it. So I'm putting some hot glue to help close that together and then sliding a bead over that. And this worked pretty good. Now the other side was a little bit trickier just because I didn't have as much wiggle room to work with. So I'm going to trim that down. And I just bent this over and made like a little hook to go in there. So technically, if I needed to, I could take this out again. I just wanted you to know this is how I did it. You could use an actual wreath form, whatever you want to do. But this is how I did it, and it ended up working out great. So then I made my larger ring and made sure that they were going to fit in perfectly together. And I'm just putting the 2 clasps or connected pieces because there's a little bit of a gap. Those are going to go up at the top. We're going to use some floral wire. This is really thin floral wire from the Dollar Tree. So I doubled it up and I'm just going to attach these together at the top. I did a pretty good connection here. I didn't want them moving around, coming apart. And then I did put little pieces of floral wire in a couple other places around the wreath. I'm calling it a wreath. I don't know. Is this a wreath? I guess it is. I mean, technically you could just use this as a mini wreath. I'm using it as O. This episode is brought to you by the letter O. Okay, so I just wanted to help hold it together. So I did a couple other pieces. And the red floral wire was nice because I felt like it blended in, but you can use whatever. It's really not that big of a deal. And then once I have that secured all the way around, I decided a little bit of embellishment might be nice. I hope you are enjoying the bird sounds in today's video from the outdoors. So I picked up cut off a piece of fabric to begin making a little arrangement on. I thought this would be easier to attach it on the fabric than attach that to the wreath or the ring, whatever you want to call it. And it worked out well. I'm just using scraps. I have little baggies of scraps of florals when I take things apart. And then I just pull them out for projects like this. And I'm using some hot glue. Hot glue isn't always the most secure thing for outside because when it heats up, it obviously gets soft again. But this sign will be in the corner of my patio, which gets the least amount of sun, and we're just gonna hope for the best. But we're gonna fill that out with all sorts of different, I liked the different colors and then like different textures. I just thought that that looked nice. And then I had a burlap bow. I didn't show you me making this. It's just a folded over basically and tied in the center. This was already in my stash. Just like the tassels, sometimes I just have extra pieces laying around that I make and didn't use or whatever. And then I added this little wood butterfly from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to trim off the excess fabric from the back so that that's just not going to be seen from the front. And then I was trying to figure out, I didn't want to just hot glue it onto the wreath because once again, hot glue, I just wasn't sure. So I'm taking more of the floral wire, and I ended up having an extra layer of fabric in the back, mainly so the hot glue didn't go all the way through, but it worked out perfect because I made a little pocket and thread the wire through there, put a little bit more of hot glue to hold it in place, and then I was able to use the floral wire to attach this whole thing to the wreath. So I showed you all of that because that idea might be handy on other projects for you in the future. But I decided to just put this on the side of the wreath because I thought that was cute. And this is how it came out. And then I'll show you how it looks outside on the sign itself. And I just love these fun pops of color for the summer for my porch. Here's the home sign. And I was able to just attach this because I have some hooks on there so that it is interchangeable. So that fit on there absolutely perfectly. Here's my little watering can just sitting on the table in between a couple of rocking chairs. And then over to my wreath. I went to the side so that you couldn't see my full reflection in the window. But that's it for these DIYs. I'm very happy with them. We're going to do a couple more themed coordinating projects for the front porch. This one is going to be a patriotic theme. These wooden stars came from Hobby Lobby. I'm using 2 packs, but not all of the 2 packs. They come in 3 different sizes, and I was just using 2. And I think one I had from like the previous year. Hobby Lobby, if you have access to one, is a really, really great place to get things because they're seasonal, especially seasonally, like almost not quite as soon as it goes out, but pretty shortly after the stuff goes out seasonally, it is marked down. And I also love to go at the end of the season and get stuff really marked down. And then I have it for the next year. So I am going to be making over or redoing a grapevine wreath that I have that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it was only a few dollars, and I keep using it in a way that I can continuously redo it and make it over. And so we're going to take these stars. I mapped them out as far as, the general shape of a wreath and laid them out, alternating sizes, and then figured out what colors I needed to paint which size. So I'm kind of just matching them up with their paint color right now so that I had the right amount of the right size in the right color. Hopefully that all makes sense here. So I'm going to use Crimson, Ocean, and White from Waverly Chalk Paint. Really great paint colors, super pigmented. The wood takes to it well. So it just took 1 coat, and I'm just going to paint all of these and let them dry. I think I may have painted both sides of the stars as well, just because when they're on the wreath, you may, they're not on perfectly and you may be able to see the other side. And then I'm sealing them with a Mod Podge that I have just to help them withstand the elements a little bit better. It's not foolproof, but it's better than nothing, and it's something I had on hand. I think this might be the hard coat Mod Podge. I'm not sure. There's so many different varieties of Mod Podge, but I had this one on hand, so that's what I used. Now this was really hard to film, so I'm just going to kind of walk you through it, but I am going to attach this onto the grapevine wreath. I am laying out the stars in the pattern, and then I'm not going to use hot glue. One, hot glue doesn't do great if something gets a lot of sun because it doesn't hold up because it'll soften. And also I wanted it to be super easy to take these off to switch them out again. So all I did was wrap the twine kind of in like a little mismatch this way and that way, and then tied it on, and it came out great and it held up wonderfully. I love how this wreath came out. To go along with that, we're going to do another doormat. This one I picked up from Walmart. These are a pretty hefty doormat. You can also get these at IKEA and other places. But as I've shown you, you can also use Dollar Tree mats. But I didn't want the dark background of the Dollar Tree mats. So I'm using the stencil from Hobby Lobby, a great place to get stencils. And we're going to stencil on some stars using those same colors that we used for the wreath, the Crimson, Ocean, and White by Waverly. Now this doormat is, you just got to use a good amount of paint in order to get a good saturated color, but you don't want to go too crazy because you don't want it to bleed through because it's not a flat surface. So the edges of the star, you could definitely have some bleed through. So you kind of get used to it once you start doing it. This came out so good. I'm pretty sure I still have this mat and I'm planning to put it out here soon. I haven't done anything with my porch yet, but I need to. Maybe I'll do a new one just because I like to make new ones. But this came out great. I'll probably use this because it's in great condition. And then I'm using these stencils from Walmart to I just put no shoes. I realized afterwards, I was like, there's probably a nicer way to put that. But whatever, it's okay. But when you're doing the stencils and you don't have multiples of a letter, just use them as like other stencils as a place marker. That's what I did to space out all of my letters. And going in with, I would say use a good amount of paint on your stencil brush, but really just go up and down, up and down. Be very careful, hold your stencils in place. But you can see, I'm just gonna do red, white, and blue. We're gonna do the stars. I think I did all the writing in white. Really, really simple. And these hold up very, very well. And it is very inexpensive if you do them like this to make a custom doormat for your front porch. I decided to layer the doormat over another mat that I had, but it wasn't really necessary because these are a pretty good size, but it's a nice touch and I already had it. And I just love how the porch was simple, but everything coordinated. Here's my home sign. I just kind of used some sparkly stars from the Dollar Tree and made them into a circle. And here's the wreath, and coordinates great with the doormat. And then I had a little flag pillow, some artificial flowers, as well as some real flowers and some flags. Kept it simple, but I love the colors for summer.
That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, and make sure you leave a comment down below, even if it's just an emoji. Let me know that you are here. Let me know which one of these was your favorite. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.